Alright, I decided to do a second video on my new stove, and part of that is because there was a little bit of interest in it, and that's kind of nice. Sorry, adjusting you so that I can see me. I shoot all these videos on my phone, so I get to look at me. So anyways, I thought I'd talk about a little bit about my new stove, and some of the evolution over the years that has happened with stoves. And so I put all my stoves in my little pack, which seems to be getting a little wore out. And just moving stuff out of the way here. And put them all inside of my little pack so that I could talk about them and why I chose them when I did, which a lot of that had to do with money. And I'll discuss a few of the little things that I like to carry around with me, no matter what kind of camping or hiking I'm doing. And of course, always with me is notebooks. There are 3 just in this pack. Not necessary at all. So I'm going to talk about, this is the main thing, the Jetboil Flash. It's been really nice. I'm sorry the image is reversed. Again, I'm looking at my phone. I could turn you around, I guess, but I'm not going to. That's the Jetboil Flash, and I really like it. It's my new system, so looking forward to trying it out very soon. The weather here has been nice. It's been a little bit warmer than I prefer this time of the year, but I can live with it. So you see me, I'm wearing t-shirts. My first cooking kit was one of these guys, Army Surplus. I think it cost me $5. Easy to use. Has a serving tray and a cooking pot. What I like about it a lot is that I can store some stuff into it. And here's my MSR stove, which doesn't actually go with this cook set, but since I have a new one, I just put it in there. Toiletries kit, bouillon cubes, and these little expanding towels, which are really cool. Some sunscreen, and my titanium fork and spoon. Originally it came with a fork and spoon that were stainless steel, nice and big. They got a bottle opener on the end. Just in case you didn't know that, you can put that on a bottle opener and just pop the top off. The spoon I use a lot in the house as a serving spoon because it's just a really nice spoon. And the sun's peeking through the trees, so everything just got a little warmer looking. But it fits nicely in this set. What I don't like about it is that it's kind of got an odd shape. It's nice and flat though, so it fits nicely into your pack, and you can put. It's got enough space that I could put toilet paper, my towels, some sunscreen, and now my stove and a second. I really like this idea. I talked about this on my last video, this little tripod thing. It unfolds and it sits on the bottom of your isobutane propane mix canisters. It makes them very stable, very nice. I think it was like $6. Of course, I bought these from a store going out of business, so I think it was a little bit less than that. It folds down nice and small. And because of the way the top is shaped, you can actually sandwich it up close to your canisters and make it nice and easy. One thing I like to hang on to is these protective covers. Keeps the top nice and clean. Like to hang on to those. Every time I get a new canister, I hang on to them because if I lose one, I like to have an extra on hand. And there's actually one down inside the toilet kit. So let me put that back together. Actually, let me leave the stove out because I wanted to talk about that. And the one thing I didn't like about these is that they're very easy to dent. They're just aluminum, not very sturdy. And they get pretty nasty with soot and stuff from your campfire. So they work really well over the burners though. I do have an old gasoline Coleman stove too, but I didn't bring it out here because it's a little bit of a walk to get over to where my home campsite is. My kids and I have been working on this site for about a year now, so it's getting to be cleaned up, but the beech trees all around just really just bog it down with leaf litter over the winter time. So we'll talk about my second kit, which was this guy, and this is Zebra Thailand. I really like these. So they latch together. They're made of stainless steel, so they're a little heavy, but they latch together. And I've got my spoon and fork kit velcroed to it, which is another oddball thing I would like to talk about. Here's my spoon and fork kit. It just slide and clip together. They're made by a company called Human Gear. I think I was given this to try out and review. I don't know if I actually did, but they clip together backwards as well, so you've got a little bit of a longer reach, which is really great for the Jetboil. They're made out of a plastic, so they don't scratch up aluminum or any lined lined containers, like any epoxy linings or non-stick or PTFE. Anyway, they go together and they're nice and light. But this kit, it unfolds. The handle clips together. It's a nice and sturdy handle. It's got a lid that fits pretty well. You can see it's been singed by campfire smoke. There we go. Can't help it. Something about camping, I do like to cook over a campfire. Inside, and I think I'm going to flip you around actually here. Hold on here. Let's see if I can flip you around. Nope. It looks like you're stuck facing this way. So, what we'll do instead is I will just aim you down, and I can still see you. But we can talk about this a little better. Alright, so, let me get my canteen out of the way. And I love these little things too. I'll talk about those in a minute. Alright, so here it is. Inside, we take off the lid. Inside is my collapsible coffee filter holder for pour over coffee. It's made of silicone. It's a little bit heavy. I could easily do the same thing with just a filter or make cowboy coffee. The Jetboil comes with a coffee press mechanism now, so I'll eventually be phasing this out too. My toiletries bag, it contains coffee filters, my collapsible bags, some bouillon cubes, a thing called a pocket bellows, some matches, and a pair of fingernail clippers because, I don't know, I've just found them to be really useful when I was out hiking and camping. So I don't think I'll ever be without fingernail clippers of some kind. Inside is a second serving bowl, and I really like that. Again, it allows me to pack some stuff in here, share a meal or whatever. This is my general to-go kit. So this one has everything that I need in it for just a night or a breakfast. So inside is some steel cut oatmeal. I like steel cut because it takes less. Like half of this is enough for a small meal. There's sugar and cinnamon mixed in because they don't expire, and it'll stay good and clean and taste good, and I don't have to bring anything extra. A shot of bourbon. It probably is Bullet, but it might not be because I just like the size and shape of this bottle, so I use it a lot, and I have not replaced it, so it's been refilled several times. Some green coffee beans. It's really nice to be able to roast your own coffee beans. It's a little harder over a campfire, but it is doable. And some fresh roasted, home roasted, and ground coffee, pre-ground coffee. I like to swap these out about every month or so. That's a little bit long of a period of time for them to sit around, and they do get a little stale, but it's better than not having coffee, and I like to have coffee. And that all fits down nicely inside of my pack. I'll talk about the toiletries in just a second, so let me just repack this, alright? Here we go again. We've got everything put back inside of there and put in top. So let's talk about the toiletries kit. The toiletries kit is pretty much the same across all my cook stoves, except for the Jetboil. Right now I haven't really nailed down what I want to put in it. So we have a roll of toilet paper. Each roll of toilet paper, I just buy pack of toilet paper like I am regular for the house, and I just take a roll and set it in front of me and unroll and re-roll it, and each one is it's probably enough for about 3 days, and I just roll it until it fits down inside of one of the cardboard tubes, and that's it. That's enough for a trip, for a small camping outfit. Book of matches. You used to be able to get these from hotels, and as such, every hotel I've ever visited, I've got a book of matches from. And I've got a big gallon Ziploc bag out in the shop that's got maybe 3 or 4 dozens of these. Coffee filters for my pour-over coffee. I actually prefer the unbleached, the brown filters, because these have a little bit of a taste to them, and you do notice, if you've been eating nothing but camp food, you can actually taste it, and it's kind of weird. 3 or 4 of these. These are compressed towels. They're just like cotton towels that have been compressed into a little disc, and they're really great because you can continue reusing them for several days. Now, why do I have these and toilet paper? Well, these are cotton. They don't break down very quickly, and like I said, I can reuse them, whereas the toilet paper, I might take a dump in the woods and want to leave it behind. I'm not going to carry that around with me. So I usually have 3 or 4 of those in there. A pocket bellows. Now this is something cool that it's been out for a little while, but I really like it. And every time I've come across somebody who doesn't have one, and I've used it in front of them, they've went and bought one. It's literally just an antenna, and it collapses down really nice and small, and then you can extend it out, and I think it gets to be, about 18 inches or so, and a nice concentrated blast of air, and it's really handy to get those embers in the bottom of your fire going to start a fire, especially when it's cold or wet. Comes in this nice little carrying tube, which I could probably put a little bit of toilet paper around it and have extra toilet paper, but for now that hasn't been a big issue. And bouillon cubes. I always carry these things. You never know when a bouillon cube might make the meal a little bit better, and they're cheap. They don't take up a lot of space, and they taste good. It's kind of a win-win. And then these fingernail clippers. I think somebody gave these to me, but they were on a little keychain, and the keychain broke very rapidly, which I wasn't that surprised about. But they just pop loose, and then they fold flat. And to fold them, you just kind of give it a pull, and then push it back together, and it clips in its place here. So there's the clip. So push it in, pops apart. They seem pretty well built other than that. And they have a little file on them, which doesn't really make a difference. So that's it for that kit. And then we'll talk about the Jetboil, or the MSR stove that I typically used with this. So let me repack this. Alright, so that's all packed up. And it does take a little bit of effort to push this in place and snap it in place. But personally, I think that's a good thing because it doesn't rattle around in my pack. And yeah, this kit has made all the difference in my camping and my hiking, because it's pretty compact and easy to use. So I showed you the spoon and fork set. Of course, you've seen titanium ones, I'm sure. Let's talk about the MSR stove. I love this thing, and I've used it for a long time. I think it's probably going on around, it's probably 8 or 10 years old by now. Comes in this nice little plastic container, which I do like, but it feels like a little bit of wasted space, and you'll see why in just a second. And it's one more thing to keep up with. Here's our stove, and you can see it's nice and small. I think the technical name for this is a pocket rocket, or just the MSR rocket. But it just screws on top of here, and the gaskets and stuff seem to be pretty high quality. They've lasted me a long time anyway. And you unfold the pot supports, which are wide enough for small stuff. So this pot, which I'm not quite sure the size of it, but it just barely fits on there, and it always feels like it wants to slide around. I really don't like that. And I also have this little guy here. It is a sparker, and it is titanium, and it is because there is no ignition on this stove, and that's fine, but it's a little inconvenient, and you need a way to light it. So you just turn it on. You hear it's a this stove can be adjusted a little bit, and so it's pretty good for cooking over. I don't know if you can see it, but there is a flame over top of it. That's one of the things I don't like about an isobutane stove, is since they're a little too efficient sometimes. You can't see that flame, and so if you don't know what you're doing when you first start out, you can actually get burned. But as I've grown used to it, it's not been that bad, and they're made to cook in a hurry. And turn it off, you just turn it all the way to the off position and fold that flat. I'll have to let this cool before it goes back into its container now, though. But if you get something like this, I highly recommend getting yourself a sparker of some kind. I find these to be more reliable than a lighter, so I like it. And the only downside is if this breaks while you're camping, then, well, you're SOL. You don't have a extra one with you. But it served me pretty well for a decent amount of time now. I don't trust the little belt clip, though, the little clip. Don't trust it at all, so it stores inside here with the stove itself. And there we go, it's getting cool. But that goes with this setup here, and it does work with this one, but since it's a rocket stove, the heat tends to be extremely focused in one small area. And that's fine, because again, when I do my cooking outside, backpacking, hiking, whatever, I typically use ramen noodles paired with some freeze-dried goodies, because it saves space and weight in the bag. And I have kids, so the less weight I have, the better. So let's set that aside. And here, of course, is the Jetboil stove, and it gets a little taller, so I'm gonna lift you up just a hair. Here's the Jetboil stove. Really liking this kit. Really impressed with how fast it boils stuff. I love I didn't think I'd like this lid, but it's kind of growing on me, and I haven't even taken it camping yet. I'm just been pretty impressed with it overall. Of course, inside I've already put some of my essentials in there. Sunscreen, very important. My toiletries kit. No fingernail clippers in this one. No coffee filters yet, because, like I said, there's a Java Press kit that you can buy with this, and that's what that center hole is for. And I'm looking forward to buying that. And the stove fits nicely down inside of there, along with your canister support. And there's a pot support piece so that I can use my existing pots and pans with this as well, that goes on here. And I'm looking forward to that. I do like that it has a piezo igniter, and I don't know if you can see. There's a little spark, but it seems to be pretty reliable, and I'm so far very impressed with it. It does have some drawbacks, so I'll pause you, I'll set this up, and we'll talk about those drawbacks. Alright, so I've got it set up. I just screwed it on. I made sure to flip this out. One thing that I've noticed is I continuously forget this, because on my old MSR stove it doesn't matter. It flips to the side, and so if you forget it, it's not a big deal. But this one flips underneath, and so if you forget it, then you can't turn it on. Which is fine if you're traveling, not so fine if you're trying to cook. So let me continue setting this up. You have to turn it on before you do anything, so you would Turn it on. And it's not a regulated stove. So while I can vary the temperature a little bit, that rocket, that jet, which is way up here, by the way, that it's up here. I mean, I can feel that there's a flame way up here. That jet is very hard to vary. And when you turn it, you can rotate this twice, I think, 2 full times, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't change that flame any. So I'm going to turn it off, and I'll talk about some of the drawbacks to this. And one of those big drawbacks is that it's an unregulated stove. Again, doesn't matter if you're packing mostly freeze-dried, but if you want to make some sausage and eggs in the morning, sausage I assume probably wouldn't matter that much, but if you want to make eggs in the morning, this may not work out unless they're freeze-dried or put in a bag, or maybe hard-boiled. Hard-boiled might not be that bad. This seems a little delicate. This seems like it could be a drawback to me, is how delicate this seems. Now, there's a lot of guys that have been using these for a prolonged period of time, and they don't seem to be all that concerned about that. So maybe it's just, maybe I'm worrying for nothing. It's got a maximum safe fill in there for 2 cups of water, so I can do that. And I do like that it locks in place, though. But since it's so tall, this little tripod stand is pretty much necessary. And I've got this aimed at you, so I'm gonna fill it with water first, and talk about some of the drawbacks that I've noticed. And of course, the delicacy is delicateness. I think I'm correct. Is one of them. There we go. It's filled to the line. It's 2 cups of water. It has a plastic bottom cup, which feels like it could be pretty robust. I'm not sure if it would take pouring boiling water into it, though. It does have a 1 cup measure on there, with looks like 1/4 cup increments along the way, and yeah, 1/4 cup increments. So, you know, it might not be so bad. I'm worried about if this canister gets squished even slightly, my stove getting stuck in there. That would be a problem. The canister, yeah, it would be a loss, and they're pretty expensive because they're specialty made, but that's something to worry about. And let me turn this on while I'm talking. But other than that, it doesn't seem to be too big of a deal. There's not a whole lot of space inside. The lid does fit pretty exceptionally well. I'm pretty enthused by that. I do like the temperature indicating color change here. I don't know how I feel about this jacket, though. On some models, on the front here, it's got a little spot so you can put your silverware in the front, but mine does not. I don't like that it's unregulated, but I'm not so sure that's definitely not a deal breaker for me. But if you want a regulated stove, the Mighty Mo, I believe, or the Mini Mo, is the one you would want from Jetboil. It uses the same configuration, so if you already have a Flash and you just want to upgrade, you can. I'm not sure if you can see. There we go. We're already changed into orange, which means that once it fills up, it'll be boiling. I do like how quickly it reaches temperature, though. And I also like mixed fuels because they're reliable in all temperature, all weather. Unfortunately, I can blow that out. I didn't like that. That was a little bit too easy to blow out. But I suppose if you put it on the lee side of a rock or a log or something, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. And it is a rolling boil. We're done. But even though there was some pretty major drawbacks, that was fast. And you saw it in real time. You got to listen to me talk, and you got to see the temperature rise, because once this is completely red, it is a rolling boil. The lid holds the heat in very well. You can see the temperature is not dropping any. I'm impressed with this system overall. Is it an end-all system? I really don't know. I have to experience it a little bit more. But I'm looking forward to it and checking it out a little bit more, and seeing how this performs as compared to my other stoves. Like I said, I really love this thing, this pot and pan setup, because of how durable it is. This thing has been beat up. It's been to North Carolina and back. It's been through shipping. It's been tossed in the back of the car. It's been dropped off the roof of the car, and it has just held up to some serious abuse, and still kept everything that you saw inside of it, kept it safe. I liked and didn't like this thing. The major reason I even have it, though, was at the time I didn't have any money, and of course I really don't have any money now, but I really didn't have any money then. And I was unable to purchase anything better, and it filled that need, and it did so admirably and has lasted for a long time. This kit, I'm really proud of it so far, as it is meeting my expectations. I've made myself some pour-over coffee. I made myself some ramen noodles. I made myself a cup of bouillon because, you know, it's just good to have a cup of broth here and there. Made myself some hot chocolate with it. I need to put forth some effort and actually do some real cooking in it soon, to see what it'll do. That said, though, I'm looking forward to getting and trying. There's a skillet that you can buy. A flux ring skillet, this setup on the bottom here being the flux ring, skillet that you can buy that goes with it, and I really want to try that out. That's it as far as the Jetboil goes. Now I wanted to talk about my water carrying stuff. I like gadgets when it comes to camping, and by the way, I'll just put this right here so you can see that red color. It's still nice and hot. That is a means that it is reached 149 degrees Fahrenheit. So anyway, we'll talk about some of my water carrying things. Of course, I have my old standby, which I use the most. These things are bulletproof. It's just a standard Army canteen. They're bulletproof. They just last forever. You can buy them used, you can buy them new, it doesn't matter. And they're not that expensive. You can buy them with carriers. They're virtually leak proof. They can leak, but I've never had this one leak, and it's just hard to beat them. And of course you can hear there's water in this. This is where I brought my water in tonight. On top of that, I've got this thing. This is called a Hydro Pack, and it was given to me to review some time ago, and when I first got it, I will admit that I was not impressed. Because I thought it would fall apart very rapidly, and it hasn't. However, it does have some drawbacks. Of course, it collapses and clips into itself, and it's about the size of a, let's see, it's a 750 milliliter bottle. It says that it can hold it says that it'll hold up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit water, which means I could pour that water into it and be okay. It does seal up very well. It has a integrated plastic seal, no rubber O-rings or anything to get lost, and it seals up nice and tight. It does hold on very well, and it's got a nice little carry loop, which I have had it clipped to my pack, and it seems to hold up pretty well to being tossed around and moved around a lot. So you can hear there's water in it because I recently used it. I've got to admit, in spite of my misgivings at first, this thing has really performed. I don't know what the material is, but it says that it is BPA free, BPA and PVC free. It does not have no weird chemical smells. Yeah, no weird nothing. It smells like, it doesn't have a smell. And so it's really performed very well for all my needs. So I feel like I can share this here, and it's Hydro Pack Stash. And I'll show it, even though I know it's going to be reversed. It's performed very well. I'm really quite impressed by it. The next thing is this little guy here. I'm both impressed and not impressed by this thing. I'm impressed because it stands up to my kids. I'm not impressed because it's heavy. It probably weighs twice as much as this one does empty. Okay. It's made of silicone, but it does have a nice wide opening so that you can drop ice cubes and such in there, and that to me is important. But it collapses down into that little cup size, and the bottom is the right size to fit down inside of a cup holder. So if you're putting this in your car, it's actually very good for that. Unfortunately, it does have an O-ring, which some people see that as a good thing. I do not, because it's one more thing that you have to keep track of, that you have to wash under, and that you have to not lose. If it tears up, that renders this bottle useless. Of course, the whole thing is constructed of PVC. It does not have any weird smell. Or not PVC, I'm sorry, silicone. But there is no weird smell, no off smell at all. It's very open inside, so you can drop ice cubes in there, or chunks of lime if you want to make a mixed drink for the hike. So it's been pretty good for that. When you collapse it, there is no space though. And I like to have a little space inside of my collapsible containers, because I can drop a drink mix or something down inside of there and leave it inside of there. And there might be just barely enough room for that, but I don't think so. I don't like empty air in my containers. As you can see by this one being as packed as full as it is, I really don't like having empty air. I like having a full container. If I'm going to put a container in my bag, it's going to be full, or if it's empty, it's for waste. And then I'm going to use a plastic Ziploc bag, and I like Ziploc bags a lot. As you can see, they're prevalent. The toilet kits are all have one in it. And of course, everybody's like, a lot of people are like, why don't you have a trowel for your toilet kit? If you can't scrape out a hole with a stick or a rock, I don't know what to do for you, pal. We're still at temperature, by the way. You can see that this insulating cozy or koozie or whatever they want to call it does a really, really good job. So I could still actually, I could have been cooking ramen this whole time. So that's it. That's my share for tonight. I just wanted to do a review and talk about why I'm impressed and why I'm not. Hopefully I got my point across. I tried to pause and just do the boring stuff outside the video. I know this is a long video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have any additions or any suggestions as far as more cook gear that you might recommend for camping and hiking, because my goal this year is every year my wife and I take some trips, and I usually take a personal trip of some sort, like a camping trip or fishing trip or something like that. Usually it's not very long, but last year I got to do a full week and it was great. So this year I would like to do a nice long, either not a through hike, but a several day hike, 3 to 5 day hike. That would be great for me. And if you have any recommendations as far as gear that you would bring, I would love to see it in the comments. So that's it. Have a good night.